5, 6, 7, 8. It's a mess, sis. Oh, it's a mess.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the podcast. It's a mess, sis. So, what exactly is a mess? A mess is a situation or a state of affairs that is confused or full of difficulties.
The mess is when things don't go the way you plan. It is when you have to go off script, improvise, ad-lib, sit through the awkwardness, and breathe through the pain until you come out on the other side, because you will come out on the other side. It is everything that makes life interesting and transformative. It is what we are here to do. It is how we learn how to be.
So join us as we dive into this week's mess.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to It's a Mess, Sis, my favorite podcast. I'm Jess, working through the mess, and I'm so glad you came back to hang out with us again.
Hi, I'm Rena. I'm your other host, and I'm excited for this episode.
Yes.
I'm going to keep it short.
Period. So that is beautiful. You guys are joining us for episode 57, and we have a guest.
Yes, we do.
So instead of What's the Mess, we're going to do a little segment called Who's the Guest?
I thought you were going to say Who's the Mess.
No, Who's the Guest?
Okay, that works.
We're going to let you take this time to introduce yourself. And if you have time, if we have time, we'll get into the mess, but just introduce yourself. Tell us a little about you, about your podcast, what you do, who you are. Take this time. Give us all the tea.
Oh, well, I like that. We should say Who's the Mess, though, because
No.
We are too.
That is one of the descriptors. Who am I? I'm a mess.
I know that's real.
I'm a mess. Furthermore, I am PMKester. I'm host of How to Take a Break, the podcast. Yeah. I guess 4 big things I am. I am a scientist. Ooh. I am a podcast host like you. Mm-hmm. I am a former journalist and a writer. Yes. So I think they're one and the same.
Okay.
And I am a mother.
Please
take my children.
Oh no! Please take them. I'm weak. That's hilarious.
That is a mess.
That is a mess.
I'm sorry.
That's why I'm a mess. That's why.
How many babies
scientists, podcast host. I have 2. So I have a college junior, and I have a middle school 8th grader.
Wow, that's quite a large gap there.
Yes, but it's funny. They work well together. So they go from trying to kill each other to like liking each other. And but talking about me, teaming up on me. So,
are you siblings? If you don't do that, Rena's not a sibling, so she doesn't know.
Oh, wow.
But being a sibling, oh no, that wasn't like a diss or a slight. I was just
it's okay. No, I'm privileged. I'm happy.
That is a privilege to be by yourself, but it is to be. A sibling is to love and hate. We used to tell our mom, like, don't even try to scold us when we're arguing. We're about to be friends in 2 minutes. Like, you're wasting your breath. You're wasting your energy. That's you're nice. Being sad, but we are about to be cool in like 0.5 seconds. We just need to do some fisticuffs and then we'll be cool. Okay. And then we're going to talk mess about the mama. Like, it's a sibling.
And then you go destroy her house in your pursuit to be cool. And that's why she's stopping y'all. Because she like, first of all, y'all not going to mess up my house.
We wasn't ragamuffins. We used to be tearing up the house.
Because y'all were the mess.
Right. We were the mess. We was rowdy. And I have brothers. So I was just one of the boys.
Oh, wow.
We was just tearing up her house. Poor thing. I feel so bad. I'm sorry, Mama. I said, I'm sorry, Mama.
That's why mamas have so many songs.
For real. You grow up and be like, damn, I was trifling.
Let me write a song about it. Yeah. Get her some royalties.
Right. Like, song for mama is you.
Exactly.
All the stuff. Yeah.
Exactly. You owe her a song.
Listen, you owe her more than that. But so tell us about, I don't know, we were talking about it kind of when we were meeting you, but the journey from scientist to journalist.
Or from journalist to scientist.
To podcaster. Like, tell us a little bit about that. That sounds really cool. I mean, my degree is in biology, so I'm like really interested in the scientist portion of this. I mean, all of it, but especially that.
So I was always one of those people in school that thought I was going to be the hyphenate, right? So, even I guess that was part of the 10-year-old you, when you ask like a small kid what they want to be. I'm going to be a model. I'm going to be a teacher. I'm going to be a doctor. And I'm going to be a lawyer. And you're like, how you going to do all that at the same time? Right. But that was kind of like what I wanted to do. I knew I wanted to talk to people. So I thought I was going to be a psychologist.
Okay. Oh, okay.
Research, mental health research and stuff that way. And I also like to interview people. Like I started like a newspaper, the first newspaper at my elementary school when I was in the 5th grade.
That is so cool.
It was the classroom times. I'm like, people would wait for it. The teacher passed it on to the principal. And that's how we started the newspaper at my school. And it was just me interviewing. And it just grew from there until I started, you know, I went to college and double majored in psychology and journalism.
Wow.
At that time, broadcast, and just ended up working on the print side. So I've been like a newspaper editor in Mississippi and a reporter, interviewed some presidents, got to ride with Mystical.
Wow.
Back in the Mystical days.
Okay.
Not me being more excited about that, riding with Mystical than interviewing presidents. I'm like, oh, Mystical.
It's so funny what you say, like to trigger people. You know how we are. Like your mama and them, like, oh, the president. And you're your friends, she's like, so then when we was riding with Mystical in the car, girl, where? And that was super funny because my best friend went because I was by myself and I called her. No cell phones back in them days.
Right.
And I was like, so look, I'm going to have to interview Mystical and I'm riding with his people and I'm trying to figure out what's going on. Do you want to come? And she was like, let me iron my pants.
Iron the pants. Oh, Lord. Don't tell me she had that sharp crease down the middle.
Look,
oh, no.
I'm aging myself.
Oh, my gosh. So you must be from the South. You're from the South. Because if you iron your pants, you're from the South. Okay.
Mississippi.
Okay.
So, that's amazing. So we go from journalism and doing print and interviewing Mystical and presidents, both very cool and very exciting. So then
was doing that as a young single mom and was trying to go to school and end up getting married and changing school. And I was doing kind of some mental health, human interest focus on the news side, but then started shifting and doing more scientific stuff. So was writing for the newspaper, but then was getting involved in all the research stuff for psychology.
Okay.
And so led to that whole scientist transition of working in mental health hospitals, getting my bachelor's in psychology, the minor in journalism, dipping my toe still in writing and doing communications for different people, but also getting a master's in public health. And now working as a public health scientist for the government.
Wow. That is really neat.
But it's a journey.
Yes.
I see.
I think that's the fun thing about continuing to live. And I know that there's always these focuses on what you can do when you're young, but it's like you can do so much with an extended life. Like you've had so many lives. You got to ride with Mystical. And now
interview
presidents. We shan't forget that part.
Yeah.
Back to the Mystical. Back to the Mystical.
Right, because that's what I really want to know about with the pleated pants.
That's
riding with the pleated pants.
Oh, wait. That's amazing. That's really amazing. Wow. Rena?
No, I'm just in awe of it. And and the scientist piece, so I'm a social worker. So I got my bachelor's and my master's in social work. But I also, when I was doing my bachelor's, I got my minor in psychology because, I was interested in that kind of research part of it all. So it's interesting that you're like, I'm a scientist. And then to hear that your mental health focus, because that's not where I was going with it. I was thinking like biology. That's what I was thinking.
And that's usually
and that's biology.
And that's kind of like how it is. That's what everyone thinks. Even in my agency that I work in, I'm like an outlier as a scientist, as a public health scientist, because it's a life science, right? I can talk about population health, I think is the formal name for it. But look at where we are now. We're in a public health crisis.
Yes.
So
how has that been?
So that's what's needed, which is pointing out like how people are doing mentally and how socioeconomic status affects what we're living through and going through, and be able to provide that data. So I worked for an environmental agency, start to figure it out or whatever. I listen to the thing. So I do a lot of environmental impact for the pandemic, and I did a lot of pandemic stuff for my organization.
Okay.
But my scientific impact is going into the room with the biology scientists and the big, strong, bigger name scientists than my public health level, and going, this is lovely. You're doing this intervention on this level. But let's think about, are these people living in poverty?
Right.
Let's think about why these people aren't getting tested for lead when 79% of the state is on Medicaid. Like, what's going on there? And so asking those questions, because a lot of times our harder science people don't think about that. So, I mean, evidently a softer scientist, I think we're hardcore. But
exactly.
But
you can't have science without the people.
Because it's the people aspect. So it's fitting that in. And I think the communications part works for that too, because I'm often the person that's in the community. I go in, I talk to the community when they're in the middle of the crisis. And I do a lot of workshops and educations and things like that. And that's part of the journalism skills at play. Interviewing people, talking to people, listening to their stories. I think that's why I'm a podcaster. I love to talk to people and listen to their stories. Like, girl, and what happened next?
Right.
It's like the Oprah comes out, you know. I'm one of those babies that grew up on Oprah, so I'm sitting there like, and why did you kill him?
Why did you kill him? And
what led to that point?
Right.
I'm not here to judge. I just want the story.
Serena knows. She like,
I know, that's me. That's me all day. I'm like, oh, tell me what happened. I'm like, I don't care that you're going to jail. I just want the story. Like, let's just let's break this down. You're going to jail regardless. But let's like talk about what led to this. Let's learn from this. Let's grow.
Why did you snap? Like,
why did you snap? It's understandable. High key. Well, that is really incredible. We will dive in a little bit deeper of where they can find you and all of that toward the end of the podcast. But thank you so much for just telling us a little bit about yourself. I feel like we still have a little time. Do we want to do a little bit of mess, or do we want to dive right in, Rena?
I think I kind of want to dive in because I have this question with all that you've been doing. You know, I love this journey and how you've been able to kind of combine all your skills along. And then it seems like you ended up somewhere where you had an interest, but you didn't know that's where you were headed. Like, it sounds like from a young kid, you knew journalism was it. And then you just kind of saw this other need for yourself and you were able to pivot. But while doing all of that, you know, since the topic of our episode is how to take a break.
Which we didn't say. Right, but thank you for saying that.
Well, I'm letting them know.
How
to take a break because
I like that. Pivoted.
See, I'm learning. This is why I talk to people and I interview people so I can learn. Since that's our topic, how to take a break, and that is literally the whole, like, that's your podcast. That's what you do. That's part of your work. Your many things that you do. In all of that, when you were pursuing your journey, did you take a break in all of that?
I think I took many breaks. I mean, because to pivot, right? So full disclosure, I got pregnant sophomore year of college. And, you know, I came from a very poor background. Like, we was poor.
Oh, dang.
Couldn't even afford the OR.
Right.
And so y'all understand. So we was poor. And so a lot in my family, it was just kind of like I was seen as the way out. You know, the smart kid, the gifted kid. Like, we know you're going to be somebody. And this is the cycle breaker. And then sophomore year, I'm pregnant. And so I remember conversations that people had to me. There was a conversation about me going to work at the factory in town.
That's it. You pregnant? Oh, just drop everything.
Yeah, like you can work night shift and then your kid is there during the day. And, you know, I really had to stop and take a break in that moment to figure out how I was going to do things because I knew that this wasn't going to be what I was going to do. So taking a break for school, like figuring out how does school fit in my day if I still have to work and I have to put my kid in daycare, taking a break for myself, you know, what avenues are there for me as a young mother, growing up in a poor home, for me to still feel like some type of connection to people, to friends, because, you know, young mom, who wants to hang around you? So, you know, taking a break for myself and and taking a break to achieve my goals. When I was working at my first newspaper, I was like 21 when they hired me.
Wow.
And I was 21, got my first apartment or whatever. And really before that, I started off as a part-time reporter at a paper in another town. So juggling that, and even against the time when people were telling me, well, you just need to be here with this kid, keep waiting tables, and just see what happens. And so that's why I tell people taking a break is not only self-care, it's life care. It's figuring out what you can take a break for to accomplish what you need in that moment. And it might be like your goal for the year is focusing on your career growth. How do you take a break for that during the 7 days a week, 24 hours a day that you have? Because you're going to have to sleep. You're going to have to do other things. So what are you going to allot to that? How do you take a break if this is what you're saying is the thing? And then giving yourself grace, because it may not happen in the time frame that you want it to happen in. But, you know, being clear on this is how I incorporate this in my life. Like, you want to write a book. How are you taking a break for that in your day? You only have 30 minutes a day. Are you going to utilize that for that? For writing? How do you make that happen? Do you go in the closet? I joke about this on another podcast about how I used to go in the closet to read.
You just needed your time.
It was a big closet.
Listen, I love a small space. I love a little enclosed, let me just go be in here. I love that kind of space. I do want to jump in and say, are we just doing free? I know you kind of dive in there. So
I just had that question burning.
Okay.
But
let me know that y'all out.
No, I did it.
I just want to know. You did, but it's okay.
I did it. It's me. But no, we can go back. We can go back because like this right here, I mean, essentially this is the topic because I want to know how to take a break.
Yes.
So I like where we're headed because I feel like we're in that definition piece. So let me just go through the agenda real quick for our listeners because that's what they're used to. And then we get straight into it because you got a lot of good info. I love what you're saying.
Yeah, same.
So thank you. Let's get reorganized. Okay.
Wonderful.
So the
Virgo in me was like, so what's happening? I'm just playing. Go ahead. Okay, the agenda.
The agenda. So as always, it's the DIC, which stands for Define, Impact, and Everybody laughs at that. That's the whole point. Yes, it is. Yes. So this episode, we aim to define what it means to take a break, which is part of what you were doing, and identify ways to go about taking a break, whether they be tried and true methods. Somebody's got to take a break to get your words out, or perspective methods. Then also we'll move on to the impact, where we'll discuss the impact of taking a break on our lives, our views on taking breaks, benefits and barriers. And then lastly, we talk about how we cope with taking a break, what our plans and intentions are regarding taking breaks from here on out. What we like to do is make each section clearly known for our listeners so that you'd be free to follow along with us. So you'll hear either Jess or I say, we're at the definition, impact, cope. So you could take time to take a break.
Take a break.
I'm going to do this the whole episode. I just want to talk about jot down your answers, reflect, or just, sit with your thoughts. Just do what feels right for you. So that is our agenda.
Thank you. That was lovely.
Thank you.
So we are to the definition then. And we kind of talked about a little bit of what, how do you take a break? But I think we need to get to what is a break, you know? So for me, if you've been listening, I usually let Google assist me. And so what did Google have to say? Google said that a break is a pause in work or during an activity or event.
Okay.
So then for me, it was like, how do we pause or break from life? Kind of like what you were saying. How do you find that time in 7 days a week, 24 hours a day? There's this cycle. And it seems like as an adult, that cycle is just continuous, some sort of work. Either work for money or work for progress or work for your dreams. It's always like, how do we do more? What can I do to do more? So how do we break from it all and feel okay about it? I have thoughts, but I'll expound after, we give the floor to you. But I think my first initial thought is just to listen to my body. Like, am I treading water to be productive today? I think that's my first clue that I need a break. That, it's easier said than done, I think, oftentimes, because it's like at the most inconvenient times. Like, I really need to hustle today because I'm an entrepreneur. I set my own hours, I set my own schedule. And it's like sometimes I just maybe I took a break earlier and now I need to really go for the money. And I'm like, you can't take another break. But my body's like, but you need a break though. So I don't know. Sometimes rest feels like more hurt than help.
Oh, yeah.
So but I still do it. And I think I've been seeing that impact my cognitive abilities and my emotional well-being by just doing it, even though it feels frightening. Or, sometimes it just feels like I shouldn't be breaking right now. You should be hustling. You should be working. So I don't know. I do want to open the floor to our guest and obviously Tarina to say what is a break for you? Like, what is a break?
Let me go first because mine's going to be quick and it's just pretty much a repeat of what Google said, which is, taking a break means to pause or to slow down for some reason. You know, whether that means to recoup, relax, recover, retrace, just making that time, that allotted time to refocus. And I don't know why all these words start with R, but they do.
Right. Wow.
I mean, yes. I mean, hey. So that's just my understanding of it. Okay. So now, please tell us.
Yes.
Since it seems like this is your expertise, taking a break.
Yes.
Please enlighten us.
What is a break?
What is a break? And why should we do this?
Yeah.
So what is a break?
Or how? Yeah, there we go.
Why and how? Ooh, it's a lot.
Yeah.
Why and how? So what is a break?
Yes.
What is a break? What is a break? I agree with Google. It's a pause, but it's a pause to reconnect with yourself.
Another R word?
Oh. Yep. It's a lot of R's. A break is a pause to reconnect with yourself. And we everybody talks about take a break, take 5, take 10 or whatever. And you're not taking 5 or taking 10 to do something. You're taking 5 and taking 10 for yourself. What do? You take a break at work. You go to the bathroom. Like you have those big conferences. It's like there's a bathroom break. That's taking a break to reconnect for yourself. You're gonna go to the bathroom. You're gonna wash your face. You're gonna check your messages. You're gonna stretch. That's connecting with your body. You might walk around the building, take some breaths, reconnecting with your mind. So I look at it as a break is a pause to reconnect with yourself.
Okay.
How do you take a break? That can be hard for some people.
It's very hard.
It can be very hard. I think how do you do it is that you have to be intentional about it, right? I do this thing now where I talk about my intention that I set for each year. And I think that we do have to have some type of intentionality in our life, right? To keep us on focus, on movement, in tune with who we are and what we are and what we're doing so that no one can define that for us.
Yeah.
So you take a break by being intentional about taking a break. It might be putting something in your phone that goes off 15 to the hour every hour, using like your watch is my Fitbit. So at 10 to the hour, every hour, it reminds me to get up and walk. Now, I don't have to walk. That could be my key for me to leave this computer, work from home, people, and go lay down on the sofa and kind of rest my back for a little bit from sitting up and scroll Instagram. Or like I was telling somebody, I take a break to play on my game sometimes, like during the workday. Like, all right, my brain, like I'm feeling overwhelmed. My brain hurts from looking at numbers all day. So 15 minutes to the hour, every hour, I'm walking to the sofa to lay down or walking up and down the stairs to kind of get the circulation moving. But it's something that you kind of have to be intentional about.
Okay.
And you have to define that for yourself and don't let people define that for you, because you will have people telling you that you're supposed to hustle 24/7, right?
Yeah.
You don't have time for breaks because sleep is for suckers.
Right.
Tired?
I'm
tired. It's me.
I'm tired. I saw a Steve Harvey. Remember I told you about that clip?
Yeah.
And it was like, broke people don't rest or something like that. Or not broke. Rich people
don't rest.
They doing all this. And I was like, that is so toxic. Like, we need rest.
And first off, that's a lie. I know some rich people. They be
a lot of rich people be doing
they have other people.
They saying, oh, that ain't work.
Because that's part of the connections, right?
Right.
And so you define your break and don't let other people define it for you. Because I think especially now in this culture, we can go online and people have so many messages. We have messages that we put out as well. It's easy to get wrapped up into letting someone define how we take our break. So we have to be intentional about what break we need. Like, are we taking a break for our physical health? Are we taking a break for my big 3 is career, money, and relationships.
Okay.
Are we taking a break to focus on one of those things?
Okay.
What does that look like?
Mm-hmm.
How does that plan into my day or my week?
Right.
But how are we going to be intentionally planning for that?
Right.
So that's, I guess, the how to take a break, and that's the intentional. I know it's not like I can give all sorts of tips.
No, but I think intention is very good.
That's the big one. Yeah, the big one is how to take a break. You have to be intentional about it. You have to define it. You have to know what you're trying to take a break for. Make that like your goal, your daily goal.
Right.
And you have to, and now the word is like escaping me, but you have to recognize that it has to become part of your day-to-day life.
Okay. Just make it a part of your life.
I don't like self-care Sunday because it makes it seem like Sunday is the only day that you need to be taking care of self. Okay. Right. Taking care of self every day. Every day. And I'm going to quote something here. I don't know if this is the right part, but so I've quoted this book on my podcast, and I highlighted it on my my feed, which is The Sisters Are All Right. It's in a second edition. It's by Tamara Winfrey Harris. Lovely book about, Black women and some of our struggles with it breaks down the strong Black woman. It talks about Black women in health. And the health part is, I think, another thing, reasons why we need to take a break and warning signs, right, for taking a break. And she says there's too little attention is paid to the way systemic inequity diminishes the physical and mental well-being of Black people, even though research suggests that living Black in America is a unique health stressor. A lot of research, especially during this pandemic, has found just how open we are to diseases, right? For how many Black people are affected by COVID. Right. And then it comes out underlying diseases that are preventable: heart disease, diabetes, and stroke. They're all caused by stress. Right. How do you mitigate stress? Figuring out how to take a break for you in your day. And so that's why I think self-care and care of self needs to be a part of your everyday, and you have to be intentional about taking a break. Right. Why? Right. The why and the when.
I think it's so important to reiterate that for Black people, because we are a hustle culture. And I don't know where it stems. I mean, we can all say where it stems from, but I just do feel like it's so important to reiterate, because even if it's, because I like the big 3 that you have to take a break, but I also feel like it's important to take a break just because. I'm just breaking. What are you doing today? Nothing. Yeah. I'm doing nothing today. That is on my agenda, and shan't anything be placed there. Nothing can be placed there because I am doing nothing today. I penciled it in on my schedule. I am doing nothing. And I think that is the hardest thing, because if I'm taking a break for what seems to be productivity in some way, what seems to be a purpose, it feels a little better. Like, I'm taking a break to focus on this. But taking a break to focus on you is so important. Taking a break to say, I don't feel like doing anything. I think we talked about this in another episode where it said that we are the only mammals on the planet that just go, go, go. All the other mammals, they wake up, they eat, they go back to sleep for 20 hours out the day. Wait a minute. They wake back up, they eat, and they go back to sleep. We are really the only mammals that are so focused on just go, go, go. We have to move, but we're big creatures, and they're the other big creatures on this planet that are our kinfolk, akin to mammals or whatever. They are not doing this, and I think some science has it right. They're just existing. And so I think when we can get to the place where we are okay with just existing and just breathing and just being, I woke up today and I'm just here, I think we'll get to a place where some of those diseases have less of an effect on us. because our bodies are our immune systems. And I feel like we're getting to a place where a lot of us are focusing more on our immune health, and we can take all the probiotics and the elderberry syrup, but if you only get 2 hours of sleep, that's not going to help you. Yeah.
It's like it's just a Band-Aid on the wound.
Yeah.
And just, I feel like we're kind of in the impact. Do you feel like that?
I do feel like we're kind of in the impact. Yes.
And I'm only saying that because I'm bringing up something from my impact.
Okay. So we in the impact.
Right.
Okay, all right.
So I feel like a lot of this, that go and that hustle stems from the fact that we've attached this idea that if we stop, then we failed, or at least that's how I feel. Mm-hmm. Like that when it's like part of like my identity. Like if I can keep going and not take a break, and like I just keep going, I'm keep producing, just keep going, then I'm successful. Mm-hmm. But what I'm hearing from you is that I kind of like your big three, because it's like a way of taking a break, but still feeling like you're strategizing or you're setting yourself up for what you want to do and your success. Like, and maybe that's just me just wanting to be a doer and always wanting to be doing something. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, I guess I'm wondering like your thoughts on that. Do you feel like it's part of our identity to not take breaks? Like we've just attached it, we've affixed it to who we are. Like, I don't want to be looked at as lazy. And I feel like when you mention taking a break, it makes it seem like, oh, you're lazy.
Mm-hmm. No, and I think a lot of that, oh my goodness, we can unpack and unravel so much of this, because I think a lot of this is culture, right? Mm-hmm. I always not wanting to be seen. I know that I used to get the conversation from my mama and my family is about, don't let the people see you being lazy. You don't sit down. You got to get up and move. Right. And then what happens? Every job I've been in, it's been, oh, you're such a worker bee. We love it. And, I was working and was working myself into a stroke, which led to the onset of my podcast. And I think that there's a lot of unpacking that we have to do and unraveling, because I think that it's the culture. It's a toxic culture that has been created, like it's permeated in the Black culture. We don't want people to think we're lazy because we know that we're industrious, and we've always been industrious. Right. And then that bleeds over into a lot of corporate jobs, which is you don't get recognition if you're not highly excelling, being highly productive, and it's like a toxic productivity. And so it's almost like you taking a break, to take 3 days off for yourself just to sit up and watch Netflix or go to even go to the beach. It's almost like you have to be like, there's messages I know that I see of people are like, oh, well, I'm going on vacation for a week, but my phone will be on. Your phone shouldn't be on. Right. You should not be, and I love that, yes, we can be important, you still be important, but I think we have to recognize the concept of it's okay to break. So it's like we have a lot of cultural things, work culture, culture within the Black race and other races as well. I know that deal with this, that we have to kind of unwind. But there's something there. There's some toxic undertones in this. I feel like, to me, I'm seeing in younger people, me and my old age, but I feel like I'm seeing with a lot of these younger people, like my 20-year-old, for instance, it's like they're trying to redefine that. And I'm eager to see where that's going to go, because I see where they're really pushing in for mental health and taking mental health breaks, going to get therapy and stuff. So now therapy is not as taboo as it used to be, like in culture or whatever. So I'm eager to see where this is going to go, because I know the younger culture, even we've had people not want to come into my job in government because they're looking at, well, what is the work-life balance like? How many telework days are you gonna get? Why is this rush to get back into these offices if we can work from home and have some sense of balance? Like, what is the purpose? I mean, I'm big on what's the purpose of all these meetings? Do we need 50,000? Right.
Send it in the email, child.
Yeah. So I think, like Rena said, there's something there. There's some toxicities there that we need to unwind to get to the why. Why is this happening, Steve?
Right. it's those kind of mentalities, though. Rick Ross, we've been taught. I mean, it's
but everyone had that. It was grind culture, I think.
It is, and it's this sense of like, if you haven't made this of yourself, how dare you
take a
feel
break?
Like you're worthy of rest. And it's like, I may never get there. And so there's always this hamster wheel of like, I'm just going to hustle a little more because maybe my dreams are just around the corner. Maybe I'll just do this little bit more and maybe I'll be rich enough to take a break. Like being wealthy is the only way that you are afforded a time to take a break. But I see a lot of our, like you were saying, in the Black culture, but especially Black women, there's so many Black women who have died so early in life. We talk about the strong woman trope, but we don't talk about the end of life being 65 or 62 or 48 or whatever it is, because you've taken on all the stresses of your community, your family, your work. You take on all of that and never take the time for yourself. And your body can only do so much. It's tired and it's given up.
Sorry. Go ahead.
I was going to agree that there is way too many research and statistics are showing. Again, even with me, when I had my incident, I was 36.
Wow.
And I worked in cardiothoracic surgery before I went to the government. So I was in healthcare, and we were starting to get increasingly younger people and younger Black women in their 30s coming in with heart issues or on the cusp of having a stroke. And it's stress. It's stress. My doctor, when I was going through this, it's like I had back-to-back health issues. I was in there running on the treadmill, knew something was wrong, was in the emergency room, having these chest pains and stuff. I'm just like bargaining with God and the universe, like, please don't let me die. Like I have so much stuff to do. I haven't done anything. And my blood pressure is rising. I got diagnosed with asthma during that time. I had arthritis sitting up, and like I had two doctors just sit me down and just said, let's write down everything that's going on in your life.
Thank God.
What is happening? What is happening? And so it's alarming that younger and younger Black women, 36, 37 and up, all these health issues are happening. And why is it happening? It's the toxic culture.
It is. It is. And go ahead, Rena. You were going to say something. I'm sorry.
No, I was just going to say, it sounds like if we don't intentionally take a break, then our body has like some type of, like fail-safe setting. It's like, okay,
I'm out.
Right. It's like
hard reset.
It's like, yeah, you don't want to sit down, but we sitting down because you don't have a choice. Like even like, so you were talking about Steve Harvey. I saw something recently about Rick Ross, and he was talking. Somebody asked him how many hours of sleep he gets. He's like, man, I may rest my eyes for like 2 hours, 3 hours. He's like, because I want to get up and just get back to the hustle. I'm like, wasn't this man just in the hospital, like about to die, like from stress? But he doesn't see that as rest. We don't see those times when we're where our body is like sit down as rest. And like unintentional rest. And we don't attribute any of our success to that. We just think, oh, we got sick. I'm like, maybe it's our body trying to tell us something. Yeah. Because we refuse to do it willingly. So
it's so hard, especially with the way that our culture is set up in this country. I can only speak for this one because it's the only one I've lived at. I live in Los Angeles. And when I walk outside, it is an abundance of homeless people just right outside my door. And I know for a fact that this government, our society, could easily eliminate homelessness. But I think they use it as a tool to motivate those of us who don't want to be homeless. Because to walk outside my door and to see people in the rain, the cold. I lived in Denver for a while too. Snow, to see them homeless, unhoused in the snow. It's a real motivator to never stop. Never stop. I must always work so that I have a roof over my head, so that I can eat. I'm not eating out of the garbage. I'm not, and it's sad because my heart doesn't want to do that. My heart is needing a break. My heart needs a rest. My heart needs and we actually did another episode on rest. And it was, once I like delved through it, I digged it down for myself and realized that I recognized rest as failure. And I think a lot of us do, if we really are honest with ourselves. And I think the impact for me is that I'm just starting to reprogram my mind. That's just really what it's. It's just going to be like you said. It's the being intentional. I'm reprogramming my mind to see rest in a positive light, so that I want to do it more. I'm not gonna lie and say it's easy, because honestly, it scares me. Because I think, well, where's the balance? Will I rest too much, and in turn, now I can't take care of myself? So, I think the impact is that rest feels good, and I want more of it. But sometimes that causes anxiety, because I'm like, so I just try to find the balance. I think for me, the impact is balance. It's recognizing that you need rest and finding the ways to do that, and also still living the life that, we've grown accustomed, or maybe dialing down what you are accustomed to. For me, I have roommates. Do I want to live alone? Sure, certainly. But the level of finance that I would need to do that here would mean no breaks, no rest.
Right.
So I think, the impact is taking a look and saying what I need and what I can do to give that to myself. So I don't know. Some sort of sacrifice is necessary to give yourself the break sometimes.
Oh no.
What do you think about that?
I don't know about that. But that sacrifice piece, I'm like, oh,
I would rather sacrifice having a roommate than sacrifice my health or sacrifice my life.
I feel like it comes down to perspective.
Okay, tell me.
Because I wonder how you're seeing rest still, even though we had this episode. This just show you that this stuff doesn't get resolved in the episode.
So don't.
Right.
It's like, how are you describing rest? Because I really like what you said about the big three and taking a break to think about career, think about finance, think about like self-care. Think of, what's it, career, money, and
relationships.
Okay.
Which is relationship. You can be a relationship with yourself.
Right.
Yeah.
So when I think of taking a break to do those things, like, I feel like I don't see it as like a sacrifice in that moment. I see it as, okay, this is what I need to do to figure out how I'm going to get to where I want to go.
Right.
So I need to take a break to do that. Otherwise, I'm just going to sit and go down a road. And I've done this. I've gone down the road for 6 years and I've taken a break to think about what I'm doing. And then finally, I'm forced to sit there and take a break. And I'm like, how did I get here? This is not where I want to be. So I don't want to do that again. So now I'm thinking of a break as, okay, I have to do this. I have to take a break to think about these things. Yeah. So, taking a break isn't necessarily, it doesn't always have to be just do nothing. Right. And that's why I like your big three, because I'm like, I could take a break to strategize and think about the things I want to think about and manifest. Mm-hmm. That's taking a break too. It's not just sitting there. Yeah. But it's okay if I just sit there too. Like, am I getting that right? Like, I want to
Yes, it is. But I also understand what Jessica is saying about it feels like a sacrifice. And I think that comes from our conditioning. Mm-hmm. Okay. I mean, a lot of the stuff is unlearning. And I mean, I had to go through this. My therapist actually told me, because I had a point of being overwhelmed again, take a break person. I was going through a lot of 2021 stuff or whatever. Oof. And she basically told me, like, once she was like, tomorrow, Saturday, I don't want you to get out of bed until 12 o'clock. And I'm just looking at her like, but what's up? Who's going to clean the house?
Right.
Who's going to take care of the kids?
Like, but what am I going to do if I just sit in bed? Like, I have errands to run. I have like laundry to do. And who's going to cook things? And who's going to vacuum and stuff like that. And then I had to like stop within that moment. And it was hard to get to that 12 hours, like to work myself up there. But then I had to just really sit and reflect on that. I took a break that morning. Yeah. Just like, well, is anybody going to die if I'm not around here, like being a worker bee? Like, if I'm not, is the house going to like implode if I'm not there to vacuum it? Right. You know what I'm saying? Or will the grocery store not be there? Right. If I can't get there? And there's so many other things now in place. I can get my grocery delivered. I just have to budget for it. Exactly. So it's like I had to start reframing my thinking about that. So I think that's how I look at what Jessica was saying. Like sometimes it seems like a sacrifice at first, but I like my way of thinking. That was kind of like my categories was my happy medium place of was like, okay, so let's think about taking a break in categories or whatever, because I like to be productive. And it's also, I also know I have a lot of stuff that I want to do. And it's hard to manage trying to be an entrepreneur, but also work this 9-to-5 job because I have kids.
Right.
You know, they need a house.
Right. And food to eat.
You know, so the people don't call me and they come take my kids.
Right.
And so how do I take a break to focus on these goals and these things that I want to do? And so I think you have to get to that point of, all right, so this is how I'm taking a break for career. This is how I'm taking a break for money. This is how I'm going to take a break for my relationship with myself or my relationship with my friends. Strengthen it up. I wrote down the other day, two of my goals was to reconnect with like some of my aunts because I hadn't talked to them in like 3 weeks.
Yeah.
And so that was kind of like that relationship break that I took that day.
Yeah.
And I mean, today I have not vacuumed because I decided I knew I had to get up and work out. So I was like, well, I'm going to work out.
Right.
Because I have some health stuff I'm trying to deal with. So I'm going to get my blood up.
I know that's right.
That. And so I didn't get a chance to go to the grocery store this morning. So I was like, but that was the sacrifice.
That's what I'm saying.
Maybe
sacrifice,
but that was the break that I needed.
Yeah. And
I think it sounds harsh.
Yeah, it's the truth, though.
I think is it sacrifices? Are you prioritizing?
You can call it whatever you need to make you feel comfortable. But I'm just saying, like, for me, I know that there are certain amenities that I want in a living space, right? To get that here and to live alone, I would need to work continuously around the clock. I can't do that. I don't want to do that. The sacrifice that I am willing to make, and it's about what you're willing, how do you prioritize things? I don't prioritize having my living space be only mine. That is not my priority. I'm just placing my priority, like you were saying, we can call it priority, we could call it sacrifice, but I think we just have to give people like real life, like, how do you do it? Because sometimes it's not going to be you get to have a break and you get to have the 6-figure income, you get to have the plot of land. Sometimes it doesn't look like that. I'm just saying, for those of us who are not able to do that, breaks are still necessary. Find where you can prioritize or sacrifice, or whatever word feels comfortable for you to get what you need, because you are ultimately the only thing that you have. Everything else is circumstantial. You don't have to have, I don't have to have a living space that's just me. I'm using this as an example, obviously. You didn't have to vacuum your house this morning. You wanted to go grocery shopping, but you didn't have to. You know what I'm saying? So these are like priorities or sacrifices or whatever that you have to do so that you can find the time for a break. I'm just saying, like, we can put a lot of things into the atmosphere, but practical level things are saying sometimes you're going to have to do the working out instead of the vacuuming and this and this and this. Or sometimes you're going to have to live with roommates instead of having a singular place and working 24 hours a day. Or sometimes whatever it is, I just think we have to but I would like to give a practical way to take a break. Sometimes it's going to be, let's just say, prioritizing, since that feels better for you.
Well, and the only reason why it's just the connotation of the word sacrifice. You know, to me, it implies that you're losing something, where prioritizing, I feel like it gives you a little bit more power, and it implies that you're making a choice.
Okay.
You know, that's the only reason. Like, I agree with everything that you're saying, but I think sometimes our perception of what we're doing can kind of skew things. So if you're looking at it like, oh, I can't have this because of this, instead of saying, okay, I'm choosing to do this because this is what I am prioritizing in this moment. It doesn't mean you can't go back and get it. Like right now, you know, you're choosing to live in like a co-living space because right now that your priority is other things. But doesn't mean you can't go back and you can't, like, in the future end up having that space.
Right.
You know, it's like I'm just prioritizing and focusing on this right now.
Okay.
With the hopes that I will have the energy to then pursue that thing. Like, sacrifice just means you have to. To me, it sounds like you just have to give it up. Like, it's just gone. Okay. That's the only reason why. But I agree with everything that you're saying. I also know words.
The word.
Yeah, I feel like words are important. And the word choice that we use, that changes how we view things.
Right. That's why in this moment, I am sacrificing alone time. I mean, the truth is the truth. Right now, I am in a sacrificial place of not having my space to myself. So that's why I said that. Because yes, I can go back and get it. But right now, I mean,
you feel like you're sacrificing.
Yes, I absolutely am. I absolutely am in a sacrificing space that says, okay, in order to get this, I must sacrifice the fact that I don't have my space how I want it all the time, just me. That is a sacrifice that I am willing to make. And that's what the reason I'm saying it is that because it's an intentional, I mean, and I think essentially we're saying the same thing.
We are. I'm not
saying the same thing. But I feel like if the word doesn't help you, choose the word that you need, right, but still come to some understanding for yourself.
Yes, I think that's what it comes down to. You're comfortable with viewing it as a sacrifice. To me, that was like, ugh. So I had to reframe. I had to reframe for something that makes sense for me, because viewing the thought of sacrificing for me just makes it seem like I'm not getting something I want, and I don't like that. Okay. So, but when I think of I'm prioritizing, that makes me say, okay, I'm being intentional. I'm choosing to do this. It doesn't mean I can't have that, but right now, this is what I'm choosing to focus on. And I feel like this is going to get me to that point where I can circle back and have that thing that I sacrificed, I guess. So, like, so it's like a compromise or just prioritizing things. But I agree with you. All of this is to say, I agree.
Wow, that was a lot.
Yeah,
agreement.
But I also
y'all see how Rita agree with people? That's crazy.
But listen. I'm doing this for the people who maybe resonate with me and also like, oh, I got to sacrifice. I don't want to do that.
Of course.
So offering that way of reframing it to say, okay, well, think of it as prioritizing. You're making a choice. You're choosing to do this. This isn't something that's just happening to you. You're not just, I just got to give this up. You're choosing to not focus on it right now. Or not focus as much of your energy on it right now because you prefer other things. So it's like, okay, I'm willing to compromise and I'm willing to have this co-living space. It's not ultimately what I want, but I know that doing this will help me get to where I want. Or it's making room for something that I want even more in this present moment. So that's all. I'm just offering just a different kind of
I love it because we need that too. We need all the perspectives. And thank you so much for that. That was lovely, Rena. It was. It really was. I do appreciate that because I do want it to be heard. And if that means that they need to hear prioritize or they need to hear sacrifice, whatever it needs to be heard, they got it all. I do want to ask you, what has been the impact for you of taking your mini breaks and continuing to, like you said, you got to a place your whole thing is taking a break, but then you had to actually, be I guess not taught, but asked again, hey, it might be time for another break. So what has been the impact for you on taking breaks, and how has that, I guess, affected your life as you continue to grow and things?
So like I said, there was a health thing that kind of really kicked stuff into gear for me. So the impact was being able to come off pretty much all of my medicines within 1 year, with even the doctors kind of looking at me just like, you're gonna be like our poster child, our clinical trial on how you did that. But it was a mind shift. It was kind of like telling myself, this is not going to be what it is. I can change this story. I can change my dash. Yeah. So, and that was all taking a break for myself. I mean, I sold my house. I got a divorce. Yes. I started taking dance classes. I changed my diet. So it was a shift, and it was that was because my focus at the time was health and myself and taking a break and making sure my kids do that. I proudly say that both my children are in therapy, and that's helped us communicate better. So I think that's taking a break to reflect on those relationships, my relationship with myself, my kids, the world around me. I saw that impact onto my health. Now kind of rediscovering it in the middle of this panorama.
Okay. This pan
this Panera bread. Don't give me Panera bread. But now the shift is clarity. Because it's all right, girl, practice what you were preaching. This is the message. You took a break. You did all these things. You launched podcasts. You saw that you have this entrepreneurial thing and that you can be a leader right, on my job. And so when 2021 was kicking my butt and my therapist had to remind me of that, the impact now is the mindset shift. And I think it goes into what Rena was saying about priorities. It made me reconnect with, what are my priorities? What do I want? What do I want from my 9 to 5? What do I want for this podcast? What does showing up and doing these things mean to me? What do I want out of my relationships? 2022 is my focus year. So a lot of that has been, I'm shifting in, I'm centering in on, all right, what is the real focus of what I'm trying to do with my life in these areas? So that impact has been just kind of like a reframing of my priorities and recognizing where I am and who I want to be.
I love that. I love that. That's really beautiful. Rena, did you tell us your impact?
I felt like I've said pieces, and I think I mirror what you said earlier, that, sometimes, taking a break, feels like failure. And I'm a doer as well. So taking breaks are hard for me. And I think I chalk it up to kind of being like a faith thing. Because but then now kind of in talking to you guys, I'm saying that maybe it's that productive culture, the toxicity of it. Because I always feel like, if I'm not actively working on something, it's not going to work out. And then it's not going to get finished. And then it's going to be my fault. And then I'm going to look lazy, But, and I haven't really been, I've been valuing breaks more. I feel like I value breaks more probably in my off time. And I'm starting to realize that I need to value breaks during my work time. So when you said that, like, you're working at home and I partially work from home, that when you take breaks like every 15 minutes, on the hour, I was kind of like, oh my gosh, but they only give us 2 15-minute breaks. Like, you're taking, I'm like, and I'm like, and I found myself kind of doing that, but feeling really guilty about that at work. But I've also noticed that when I don't take those breaks, I'm not doing any work anyway. Like, sometimes it's that 15-minute break to sit there and be like, oh, let me walk around. Let me walk to the furthest Dunkin' Donuts I can walk to get coffee and walk back. And then when I come back, I have energy and I can push through that plateau. But when I sit there and say, I can't take a break, I just got to keep working, I'm looking at the clock. Okay, 15 minutes. Okay, look again, another 15 minutes. Like, if I would have just took that break, I would have been back, and I would have been fine, and I could actually do work. So I think I'm working, the impact is that weaving those breaks in more frequently. That's something that I need to do. And I'm realizing the benefit of that it's actually helping me more than hindering me. Because me just pushing isn't working. Yeah. So that's been the overall impact for me. Just kind of, just having a view on breaks. Taking a break doesn't make me lazy. Maybe that's part of my work ethic, what I have determined for myself as a need in order to be productive, because I'm getting my work done. Right. And just because it doesn't look the way that, they're telling me it should look, work 8 hours straight, I can't do that. I'm gonna say that. Right. Like, it's not, it's like,
one is.
Exactly. Right. That's exactly what I said in my head. I said, ain't nobody working 8 hours straight.
Right. Nobody. So I think we need to vocalize that and normalize that, taking more breaks at work. Yeah. Especially being at this at-home environment, because, hey, I may answer an email after hours, So and I also am learning to, because I do social work, like I do a lot of emotional work, so in my off days, I'm driving down the street, driving to Walmart to get something I need. I'm thinking, okay, what service can I get for this kid? Or what that's work. That is work. If I'm thinking about you and I'm planning and it's on a Sunday or a Saturday, that's still work. So, I'm going to take my 15-minute break because I haven't stopped working because I'm still thinking about you. So, that planning and that brainstorming piece, it's not always just the doing. That's what I'm realizing. So that's the impact for me. Did you tell us your full impact?
I did. But I think I do have a question for you guys though. If you are in the midst of life just being like really tough, you need to work as many hours as you can. You have what feels like no downtime.
Mm-hmm.
What is a very first step to taking a break, like a real world practical break? What can someone do? They just feel like, you know, all the hours of their days are just fulfilled with something. What is a real world, or what would you do in that situation, I suppose, to find the tiniest break? 10 minutes, 15, 30 minutes. What do you feel like is a real world like way to get a break?
So I actually have a worksheet. I don't know if it's still on my website or not, where I have people write down their day, because so many times people tell you I don't have time.
Right.
And I'm people. I've said that to myself.
Right.
When do I have time to take? And so I think there's power in writing stuff down so you can kind of see it. Like, what does it look like? And it might seem stupid to be like 9 o'clock, I do this, 10 o'clock, I do this. But I think that you kind of have to do that so you can see that
you do have time.
You may have time. It may only be like 30 minutes between your 2 jobs and getting your kids out. But that's still that can be a powerful 30 minutes. 30 minutes of you, I don't know, taking a cat nap. 30 minutes for you to take a walk.
Right.
Again, because we're going to talk about those health issues and stuff that come from stress. Like if you're working, because I have been in that situation where I was working like 3 or 4 different jobs at the same time because we were trying to like move into a new house. And you know, I had to pay all these bills and deal with stuff with the kids and whatnot. And so I was working. I mean, I was working. And so you have to steal that moment. And I think what I would do, I used to steal, like, I would try to figure out what time I had in the day. And I used to go to Starbucks.
Okay. And
because I recognized that I had time between having to go pick up my husband at the time because we were sharing a car. Wow. So I was like, I said, if I leave work directly at 4 o'clock, I'll get to Starbucks at 4:15. That'll give me 30 minutes so I can sit, have something to drink, and then I'll write for a little bit, and then I get back in the car and I can pick them up in time.
Okay.
And I ended up doing it for like a month. The people at Starbucks started to they knew when I walked in, they would start making my drink and stuff. They were like, we know you got 30 minutes.
Right.
So they were aiding me in my break.
I love that.
And I had to sit there and I got to write. And sometimes I didn't write. Sometimes I just sat there and sipped my coffee.
And people watch. That's people a good break right there.
Talk on the phone, chit chat, you know, read a book or whatever. Yeah. But that was my 30-minute break between working, being a mom, being the chauffeur in my family. But I had to sit there and just kind of look like, when do I have the freaking time to do this? So I think that's the first step. It's just being realistic and looking at your day and write it down and then look and see.
Right. And I want to jump in before you answer, Rena. You said something that was really, I think, important. You said they started to recognize you and then they were making your drink, and that actually aided in your rest. And I feel like when we start to do stuff, that is kind of what will happen. Something will help aid you in your rest, either a friend or your community. Like, you know, if you just get that foot in the door, there will be some aid oftentimes to help you in your journey of rest. But I just wanted to say that really quick.
No, that's absolutely what I was going to say. I'm like, it sounds like, I'm like, it sounds like Source just kind of stepped in, and once you said, okay, I want to take a break, you were intentional about it, you wrote it down. Source was like, oh, I see what you want. Like, let me support you in that. You want to make time for this. Let's make time for it. So I think we always think about Source of support in like getting to the next goal, you know, but sometimes, you know, God, universe, or spirit, whatever you want to choose, you know, yes. You know, it finds a way to support you in whatever you need. So and that's what it sounds like. And it sounds like it was really powerful. And it helped you power through, like, you know, that rough transition period for you.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
And I think I wanted to say that's really amazing. Getting a Starbucks. Music is also life for a lot of people. Take that time and listen to your favorite song. Cut that thing on blast. A lot of us sit in the car anyway before we go in the house.
Yeah.
Be intentional about the sitting in the car time. You know what I'm saying? Just say, this is my time. I'm not going to feel bad about it. I'm going to sit in my car. I'm about to blast these last 10 songs on my playlist. I'm about to be in concert or whatever it is that you do when you blast your song. Sing out loud, sing off key, do what you have to do. That would be my first step because I love music. Yeah. And when I work for my car. So that's I kind of get a little break every time I'm between drives. I'll be blasting the music, just having a good old time, letting my brain wander because I don't have to necessarily think about anything specific. So that would be my real world tip. Take the time that you're already taking when you sit in the car and just be intentional about it. This is my break time. I'm using this to breathe. I'm using this to sing out loud or whatever it is. So that's my tip.
I would say my real world tip is mindfulness.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you know, and I think that's kind of what you were doing, and both of you were doing. Like when you're sitting there, you're like, I'm just gonna have this coffee and I'm gonna sit here. Like I'll do this thing where like I'll get frustrated and I'll take a coffee break, and I'm like, this is all I will do. I will just drink this coffee. Everything else will have to wait until this coffee is done. I am not thinking about work. I'm not thinking about people, family members I need to call and Christmas cards I need to respond to a month later. I'm like, right here in this moment, I'm going to sip this coffee that I made specifically and mindfully for me.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to worry about anything else. Yeah. Everything else can wait. Or also when I'm driving, I love music. Mm-hmm. So being intentional about the music I'm listening to, depending on what mood I'm in. Or sometimes I just choose not to listen to music at all. I will just drive and I'm like, I just need to be quiet. I just need to be still and just let my thoughts fly. And by the time I get to my destination, I'll be clear. And if anybody plays instruments, it doesn't matter if you play them poorly. I've been trying to play the guitar for decades at this point. I've gotten a lot better. But I've noticed that when I have a lot of frustrated energy, thank you. You know, thank you for all the, you know, semi-untalented artists. So,
or you could just say semi-talented.
Okay, there.
That's a better way to say. You might be
right. I mean, you know what?
You're doing better than somebody.
Period.
Hey, you know what? I'm doing better than a lot of people.
You're doing better than you were.
Before. And that too. I'm doing a lot better than when I started.
Right.
And I've noticed that like just taking 5 minutes, because I'll get this frustrated energy and I don't know what to do with it. And I'll just pick up my guitar and I'm like, let's just practice some chords. Let's just play. And then that'll help me kind of forget. And it'll give me that break of whatever I was thinking about. It's like, just focus on pressing on these frets. Yeah. You know, just focus on that. So kind of just really rerouting myself back into the present. Not thinking about if I don't respond to this email, what's going to happen. Like, I get a very future focused sometimes. So just kind of coming back to right now in this moment.
Yeah.
Is it that bad?
Yeah.
And taking a break that way.
That's lovely. Yeah. Well, I think we are now to the cope. How do we cope with all this information? How do we cope with whether we can take a break, can't take a break? How do we find a break? How do we cope with all of that? I will open the floor to either of you. Which of you want to go first? Fight it out. I mean, you know, whatever. No, I'm kidding.
Please, break master. Yes, I give it to you.
Us. Yes. How do we cope with all
You're like, oh, these titles.
How do we cope with all of this information?
Yes.
I think we take a break to process it.
Yeah.
To let it sink in. It's just kind of like I was telling you earlier when we were talking about our conversation on sacrifice and priorities.
Yeah.
Is that, you know, sometimes we have a lot of unlearning to do. If you see like a lot of the parenting conversation on Instagram, you found out a lot of us had, you know, not so great childhoods and things like that. And then we talk about the toxic productivity culture. You know, there's a lot of unlearning that we kind of have to do as part of like our self-work. And so I think we take all this information that's been released here today and we just we sit with it. We like, maybe you might have to come back and re-listen to this episode in parts. You may have to go and Google some things. I know that I've talked about making a list and we've talked about writing things down. You may have to grab a journal and write some stuff down and see what works for you. But I think you take a break to process first. And then you decide, well, what is my next step going to be for me? What's going to work for me? But, you know, baby steps, chunks. This is not a race.
It's not.
Yes.
It's not.
I love that.
I love that. Yeah, same. Did you want to go, Rena, or would you like me to go?
I will go.
Okay.
And I'm pretty much it's being intentional, about breaks and just kind of acknowledging that, taking a break is doing something. And I know it's going back to being productive and everything, but where I am in my life, I need to feel like I'm doing something. So just kind of intentionally taking those breaks and taking that action versus, being put on my ass because I refuse to take that break.
Yeah.
That's how I'm coping. I'm like, I'm going to incorporate more breaks into my life so that I can break through these plateaus and so that I can maintain my emotional, mental, and physical well-being.
I love that. I love that. And I think for me, I just cope by giving myself grace. We say that a lot on this podcast, but I'm giving myself grace as I find the balance. It's a new feeling for me, and I allow myself the truth in fear about it. Just saying like, it is sometimes scary still to say, I just need a break. My body is just tired, and to just let myself feel that and to actually give myself the break that is needed. I don't allow the fear that I do feel to stop the rest. But I acknowledge that it's scary and that it's okay, and as I continue to do that, the fear around it becomes less and less as I continue to progress in life, as I continue to pay my bills, as I continue to eat, as I continue to do the things that I feel like are needed for my full self while also taking a break. It becomes less and less scary. So I'm just giving myself grace as I find the balance between rest and work and productivity and nothingness. And so, yeah, it's really just grace at this point. I'm just giving myself grace. Yeah.
Grace.
Yeah. That's
grace and balance.
That's grace and balance. So then to recap it all, yeah?
Oh, yes, do it.
Let's see if we can do this.
I know you can do it. You can do it.
We're going to do it. Okay. To recap it all, take a break, child. Not just playing.
Hey! I like it.
I like that.
One quick thing, take a break. And even if it feels scary, even if it feels insurmountable, even if it feels like you have no time, we have some tools. Write it down. Blast some music. Get a coffee. Figure out the way to give yourself the break before your body breaks for you. It's okay to break. Productivity is not necessary at all hours of the day. It's okay to do nothing, and you will be rewarded for it. So that is the recap, I think. If I missed anything, y'all shout it out. But yeah, I think that was a quick little summation.
Right. Or they could take a break and re-listen to this. And then I'll be their whole recap. You know what I'm saying? Like, listen to it a few times.
A couple times, yeah.
Yeah,
share what your mama do. But now we are actually to my favorite part, which is the meditation. What we do is we take a couple breaths. We set an intention for our day. Take another couple breaths, and then I let you go about your day. So what I want you to do for me is to take a big, deep breath. We'll take a second deep breath. And we'll take one more deep breath. And now for our intentions. I intend to continue learning how rest fits into my life, to continue taking breaks so that I am able to spend as much time on this planet as I have allotted for myself. I will allow myself to be as uncomfortable until I am not uncomfortable with taking breaks.
Okay, I'll go next. It is my intention to continue to take breaks and to take them to do whatever I feel is necessary for me to do to, get to that feeling of joy that I want to feel and experience in my life.
Me.
Yes.
Look, I'm happy I cheated. I wrote a little something down.
No, that's okay. It's okay.
I intend to give myself permission to stand tall and walk in who I am.
Ooh. I love that.
I
love that. All right, we're going to take our last set of breaths. Take another big, deep breath with me. We'll take a second deep breath. And we'll take our last deep breath. All right, our intentions have been set. Go out there and flourish, sis. Today doesn't have to be a mess.
But it's okay if it is.
It sure is, y'all. Thank you so much for tuning in again. Thank you so much for joining us on this podcast. This has been such an amazing episode. During this time, this is our shout outs. I would like you to tell everybody where they can follow you, your website, your Instagram, all of that.
All right. So if you connect with me on Instagram, you actually find a link tree with all the things. So that is at PMKester, Kester. I'm also on Facebook. How to Take a Break is the name of that page. And my website is pmkesterenterprisesllc.com.
Very nice. That was lovely. So well stated. All right. Is there anything else, Rena? Did we have anything else we needed to let the people know?
Nope.
Okay. Well, we just always like to say, if you have a topic idea you'd like to discuss with us, email us at itsamesspodcast@gmail.com. Thank you guys so much for tuning in again. We cannot do this without you. We appreciate you. We love you. And we're going to catch y'all on the flip side. Peace.
It's a message.
Hey, that's why I can't sing.
It's okay. He's going to talk over my singing though. Okay, it's ready now.